The story begins with our two main protagonists called Asta and Yuno, who were abandoned as infants in the distant village of Hage. In a world where everyone can use magic, Yuno grows up with tremendous magical ability while Asta grows up with none, a trait he is often mocked for. One afternoon, Asta begs sister Lily to marry him, but she flatly rejects him as usual. Yuno also points out that as a nun, Lily cannot marry him. The church children are huge fans of Yuno and his magical ability but mock Asta's lack of them in return. Yuno similarly dismisses Asta when he acts out of hand, and Lily remarks that the two were once inseparable, but an incident caused Yuno to become rather cold and distant. After being humiliated at having no magic, Asta trains his heart out in a nearby forest, confident in his physical abilities, and he swears to be the next wizard king. The following day, Yuno alongside some other kids go to their town's Grimoire Tower, where once a year individuals their age receive their own grimoires, which gives Asta hope that he too could one day use magic. Everyone receives their grimoires one by one, but everyone's attention turns to Yuno when he receives the fabled 4-leaf clover grimoire, known to be used by the first wizard king famous for its luck-giving properties. However, Asta is devastated when a grimoire is not assigned to him and is once again mocked by everyone around him. Undeterred, he continues to train hard, swearing that he will catch up to Yuno in no time. Meanwhile, Yuno comes face to face with two nobles who were also present at the ceremony. Jealous that they were upstage, they attack him, but their blasts are effortlessly repelled by his wind magic. Suddenly, a man who introduces himself as Rivchai the Chain Magician attacks all of them, restricting them with his namesake chains. He steals Yuno's grimoire, as 4-leaf clover grimoires fetch obscenely high prices in the black market. Asta appears to Yuno's rescue, but despite his physical training, he is unable to keep up with Rivchai's chains. So in turn he is captured, and Rivchai openly mocks and insults Asta once more, and when he reveals that he senses absolutely no magic in him, Asta is majorly disheartened. Right before Asta gives up completely, Yuno speaks up, declaring Asta to be his greatest rival. A revitalized Asta gets up, and to everyone's surprise, a black grimoire bearing the mark of a 5-leaf clover appears out of thin air. Where a 3-leaf clover represents faith, hope, and love, and a 4-leaf clover represents home, within the 5-leaf clover resides a demon. From depths of the black grimoire, a black blade comes forth. 10 years ago, Asta and Yuno were inseparable. Though Asta is the same as he always was, Yuno was quite a crybaby. The one thing they have in common is that they both admire the Wizard King, whom they hear about from the stories that Sister Lily would tell them. Even as a child, Asta wished to be the Wizard King so he can raise funds for their church. He struggles to be of help to those around him so he can be worthy of the title, failing to find anything he can do. Yuno is tasked by their father to deliver an important letter the next town over, much to Asta's annoyance. However, after Yuno delivers the letter, he is beaten by a drunkard who steals his pendant. Yuno begins to cry, but Asta appears and relentlessly attacks the much larger man. Frightened by his persistence, he gives up and leaves, and Yuno remarks that Asta always seems to do the impossible. Back in the present, Yuno watches as Asta's black blade nullifies Rivchai's chains, leaving the latter in a state of shock. Asta then declares that he will be the Wizard King even without magic. He ends up defeating Rivchai, and afterward he excitedly shows Yuno his own grimoire. Remembering their promise from when they were younger, Yuno once again declares Asta as his rival, and to prove to everyone that anyone can become the Wizard King, even if they're an orphan from a backwater town. As the sun sets, the two bump fists as they begin their rivalry to become the next Wizard King. We then come to discover that centuries earlier, a great evil that threatened to wipe out the world was defeated at the hands of a great mage, who has come to be known as the first Wizard King. This title would be passed down through the generations and assisted by the Magic Knights, who continued to keep the peace. The Magic Knights are comprised of 9 squads, and to become a Magic Knight or the Wizard King is an aspiration of all. After the events of Rivchai, both Asta and Yuno are training hard to participate in the upcoming Magic Knights exam to join one of the 9 squads. Although Father Orsi is against Asta participating, the Wizard of the Grimoire Tower reasons that it is okay for him to go, and Sister Lily agrees. The next day, Asta is joined by Nash, one of the kids from the orphanage, who says that his goal of becoming a Wizard King is pointless, as in his words, "Poor orphans like us aren't allowed to dream." Unfazed by his pessimistic attitude, Asta tells him that anything can be done if you don't give up, which he seems to prove after reducing a giant boulder to rubble with nothing but his sword. The night before they are set to leave, the orphanage has a huge potato-themed feast to send them off. Father Orsi jokes that he'll soon see Asta again regardless, which infuriates him. The two leave early the next day, and Nash says that he'll join the Magic Knights one day too. Sister Lily is overcome with emotion at seeing 2 beloved members of her family leave. The two begin their long and arduous journey towards the Clover Kingdom's capital, using their magic to survive, and racing along the way. And after several days they arrive, ready to take the Magic Knights exam and to take their first steps to become the Wizard King. Asta and Yuno enter the castle town of Kika and make their way to the Magic Knight's examination site. Yuno attracts attention for being a wielder of the four-leaf clover, while Asta attracts attention for being loud, much to Yuno's exasperation. Once there, the examinees are swarmed by anti-birds, which flock to those with weak magical energy. While Yuno has nary a feather on him, Asta is hilariously bogged down by an entire flock to everyone's amusement. He runs headfirst into Yami, the captain of the Black Bull's Night Squad, a squad famous for its reputation of collateral damage, and is regarded as the worst among all the squads. Yami threatens to kill him after Asta calls him old, which amuses Sek, another examinee who introduces himself to Asta. Soon, fireworks signal the start of the ceremony proper and the various captains of the Magic Knight squads enter the arena, and Sek explains them one by one to Asta. Captain of the Golden Dawn, called William, has been touted as the strongest among all the captains, and is the man closest to becoming the Wizard King. Yami also arrives fashionably late. William begins the exam by giving all the examinees a wooden broomstick, but because Asta has no magical ability, he is unable to get it to fly. Similarly, several of the exams require magic control, which Asta fails one by one. However, the final exam is announced to be a combat round and Sek volunteers to fight him, thinking Asta is easy pickings. Asta wishes him a good match, but Sek shows his true colors by calling Asta a dirty peasant, enraging him. Sek encases himself in a magical barrier meant to protect against outside attacks while simultaneously firing off barrages of magic bolts, which he brags is a great offensive and defensive spell. The fight begins and Asta defeats Sek in a single rush, cutting through his barrier with his black blade, startling everyone who had expected Asta to lose. As Asta stands over the unconscious Sek, he declares that he isn't here to play around but to become the next Wizard King. The interests of the various captains are piqued, especially Yami, who senses that Asta has no magical ability at all and his feat was purely due to his physical prowess. The fights progress smoothly until Yuno is challenged by Salim, a noble who sees him as an inferior peasant. However, despite Salim using his so-called greatest attack, Yuno easily defeats him with his wind magic. Afterwards, the examinees are called forward one by one and the captains will raise their hands to indicate their interest in having them join their squad. The examinee can then pick from among the captains who raise their hands. However, if none of the captains do so, then the examinee is deemed to have failed and is forced to retire home. The selection process is surprisingly strict, with few getting any offers at all. However, once it is Yuno's turn, every single captain raises their hands, stunning everyone as it is thought only nobles could join the Golden Dawn and Silver Eagles. Wanting the shortest path to be the Wizard King, Yuno elects to join the Golden Dawn. It is now Asta's turn, but to his horror none of the captains raise their hands. Asta is heartbroken, is soon heckled to leave the selection area, but Yami comes down to face him. He tells him such is the cruel reality of not having any magical power and asks him if he still intends to be the Wizard King. When Asta reaffirms his goal, Yami is impressed and extends him an invitation to join the Black Bulls, and tells him that maybe someday he can be the Wizard King. Asta and Yuno meet and say their goodbyes as they now go their separate ways. Yami grabs Asta and throws him through a portal created by Finral into the Black Bull's base, where he welcomes him to the kingdom's worst magic squad. Asta watches in awe at a chaotic scene unfolding before him at the Black Bull's base. Yami tells the squad to stop destroying the base, but he smashes a wall, demolishing it in the process. Yami introduces them to Asta and the members are surprised he hails from Hage Village. He and his Finral introduce him to the members one by one. With the introductions concluded, Magna, who is skeptical over Asta's ability, gives him a trial to see if he is worthy of a Black Bull's robe. Fortunately, all the trials are a test of Asta's physical abilities, which he easily clears. However, for the final trial, he challenges Asta to either absorb or deflect his fire magic head-on, and only then will he recognize him as a Black Bull. Asta then brings out his black blade, piquing the interest of the other Black Bulls. Magna fires off a giant ball of flame, which Asta is narrowly able to deflect back at him. Asta is afraid he killed his own teammate, but he is relieved when he sees Magna come out unscathed, having nullified his own magic at the last second. He runs over to Asta, greatly impressed at how he sent his own magic back at him. But he is even more impressed when he learns Asta has no magic whatsoever, calling him a true man. The other Black Bulls join in congratulating him, and as promised they give Asta his Black Bull's cloak, which he proudly accepts. His membership now official, he's warmly welcomed into the Black Bulls. While the group celebrates, a girl that's also a new recruit to the Black Bulls looks on, thinking of Asta as nothing more than an insect. Asta is shown to his room, and although it is shabby and run down, he is happy to have a room to his own for the first time in his life. Magna then reminds him to write a letter back to his family in Hage. Likewise, Yuno is shown to his far more lavish room in the Golden Dawn, where his instructor Klaus disrespects him because Yuno is not a noble. Back in Hage, Orsi, Lily, and the rest of the orphanage receive news of Asta and Yuno's acceptance into the Magic Knights, and they are thrilled. Orsi goes to spread the news throughout the village while Lily silently wishes the two good luck. The next day, while Magna gives Asta a grand tour of the Black Bull's base, they run into Noel, Asta's fellow recruit, and a member of the royal family. Sensing no magic in Asta, she dismisses him, calling him an insect. To show them the difference in their power, she fires off an orb of water towards him, but it inexplicably curves and hits Magna instead. An irate Noel abandons her Black Bull's cloak, calling it the worst squad in the kingdom, before leaving. Asta later encounters Noel in the forest practicing her water magic. He then sees the issue with Noel. Although blessed with great latent magical power, her spells somehow do not hit their mark. This is a trait for which she is scorned by her family, including her brother, the captain of the Silver Eagles. When Noel sees Asta, she is embarrassed and tries to blow him away with magic, but it goes out of control and she ends up trapped in a vortex of water. Since Asta is the only one able to safely extract her, Yami throws Asta towards it, nullifying it with his black blade. Fearing she will be mocked once more, Noel is instead surprised when Asta praises her magical abilities, saying that if she practiced she'd be invincible. The rest of the Black Bulls reassure her that her failure to control her magic is no big deal. All of them have flaws, and one or two flaws does not make you any less of a person. Noel accepts Asta's hand in camaraderie, learning that this squad will accept her for who she truly is. Asta wakes up early to perform daily chores around the base, but realizes this is no different from when he was at the orphanage. Over breakfast, he asks the other members what it means to be a magic knight, and they each give their own personal selfish answers, which worries Noel as she wonders if she truly is a fit in the Black Bulls. Yami arrives at the cafeteria and calls Magna to go with him on a very important mission. Asta asks if he can go, but Magna says they're not allowed to bring kids along with them. It turns out that their important mission is a game of poker with the mayor of Saucy Village, Seihai. After losing everything to his royal flush, they return home. They inform Asta and Noel of their first mission. As punishment for losing against the mayor, they are tasked with dealing with a pack of wild boars roaming Saucy Village. Asta points out that they should have nothing to do with this, as it was Yami who lost, but he threatens to kill them if they don't go. Noel is worried she might not be of much help due to her lack of magical control, but Magna reassures her that he'll be there to clean up if things go awry. With Finral unable to create a portal to places he's never been before, and Asta and Noel's inability to ride magic brooms, Magna is forced to bring them to Saucy on his customized broom, the Crimson Cyclone. They experience a turbulent ride, but meanwhile, several mysterious individuals have also arrived at Saucy to search for a magic stone. Among them is a man with a scar across his face, talented in ice magic. After dealing with several bulls at the outskirts of Saucy, Magna tells the two of them of how, in his youth, he was a troublemaking delinquent, but he was set straight by the mayor, Seihai. It was he who encouraged him to become a magic knight, despite his peasant background. When they arrive near the village, Magna is horrified to see a mist enveloping the entire town. He tells Asta to use his black blade to cut through the mist, and the three make their way into the city center, where they rescue the villagers from being impaled by icicle shards. Here, they see a scarred man named Heath, accompanied by 3 other mages, who threaten to eradicate them. When Heath says that the peasants in the village are nothing more than lowly beasts, both Asta and Magna's pride at coming from villages are hurt, and they swear to defend them with their lives. Although he is surprised at Asta's ability to cut through his magic, he begins targeting the villagers instead. Asta and Magna frantically attempt to defend the villagers, but they soon begin to be overwhelmed at the onslaught of Heath. Magna, running dangerously low on magical energy, throws everything he has, but the ice keeps coming. Heath tells them he is willing to let them go if they abandon the villagers, which Noel considers for a moment, as she feels she is holding back Asta and Magna. However, when a girl grabs the hem of her skirt, asking her to save them, she has newfound resolve, and a new magic appears in her grimoire, the Sea Dragon's Lair. She casts a huge, swirling vortex of water that defends herself and the villagers around her, as Heath is astounded at the sheer power of her magic. Heath is surprised at Noel's magic, and despite his repeated icicle volleys, they fail to penetrate her barrier. Asta takes the opportunity to mount a counterattack, but Heath cleverly makes him slip on a strip of ice. He then calmly walks towards Noel's barrier and begins freezing it bit by bit. Magna, aware of his natural advantage against Heath, grits his teeth as he knows Heath's magical capacity far eclipses his. However, Asta returns and tries once again to take down Heath, but to no fruition. Magna, inspired by Asta's relentless attacks, emerges from the barrier once more. He fires off his final attack, the Prison Death Scattershot, a massive volley of flame bolts, but Heath successfully repels it. Just when all hope seems lost, Asta appears behind Heath and uses his black blade to reflect the scattered flames back towards Heath and his cronies. Heath finds that the flames don't go out on their own, and he desperately tries to extinguish it with his ice, but Asta delivers the finishing blow, knocking out Heath. Magna restrains the remaining members, but one of them manages to escape. Asta collapses from his injuries, but Noel looks on, remarking that even though he's loud and annoying, he is a little cool. They later try to interrogate Heath, but realizing he has been captured, he kills himself and his cronies. This shocks the three bulls, especially Asta, who is disgusted at their blatant disregard for life. They then bury Seihai, while a tearful orphan declares he will be a magic knight one day too, despite being a commoner. Magna and Asta encourage him to follow his dreams, and an anti-bird suddenly swoops down and pecks at Asta. They notice that in its beak, it is holding a magic stone, presumably the target of Heath. The orphan boy says that it was Seihai's old charm and offers it to them as a reward. Meanwhile, a cloaked man learns of Heath's demise and concedes ownership of the magic stone for now. He touches a large gravestone, remarking that the resurrection of their lord is close at hand. On the collar of his robe rests the symbol of the Golden Dawn. The three return to the Black Bull's base, and despite the death of Seihai, Yami commends them for defending the villagers. For their efforts, the Wizard King has awarded them a gold star, bringing the Black Bull's grand total to -30 stars, compared to the Golden Dawn's 70. He hands them their paycheck of 200,000 coins, an amount Asta has scarcely seen in his entire life. He plans to send a portion back to Hage, but Vanessa invites him and Noel out shopping the next day. They head out on Vanessa's magic broom to Kiko, the same venue as the Magic Knights exam weeks prior. They see Finral, Gauche, and Charmy all spending their salaries in their own way. After Vanessa purchases some medicinal herbs, she brings Asta and Noel into a hidden alley where the black market is located. Noel is initially hesitant to partake in possibly illegal dealings, but she is convinced to participate when Vanessa says that certain artifacts could help her control her powers. Meanwhile, Sek is also in the alley, losing in a game of cards against an old lady. He trudges back to complete his mission, but he remains bitter about being in the praying mantises. He sees Noel and Vanessa, and enamored by their beauty, tries to hit on them, but he is rebuffed. Asta returns from buying novelties, and he reunites with Sek, who is jealous that Asta gets to spend time with two beautiful women. Suddenly, an old lady cries out for help as her card winnings were stolen. In response, Asta jumps into action. Asta chases the thief throughout the alleyways, while Sek follows closely behind him. Riding atop a magic cloud, the thief is shocked by Asta's persistence and is puzzled at how he can keep up despite him riding on a cloud. Knowing the cloud is made of magic, Asta throws his sword at it to disable it. The thief crashes to the ground where Sek lies waiting to capture him. However, he is stabbed with a poisoned dagger and fears he will soon die, but Asta encourages him to live on. Vanessa arrives and treats the poison, and Sek leaves with the thief, bidding Asta, Noel, and Vanessa farewell. The Black Bulls return the stolen money to the old lady, and they warn her to be more careful in the future. As they leave, it is revealed the old lady is not an old lady at all, as the disguise is shed, revealing it was the Magic King Julius himself all along. He is impressed by Asta's anti-magic blade, and when he looks to the sky, he sees another interesting prodigy, Yuno. Yuno, alongside his co-recruit Mimosa and his instructor Klaus, are tasked with escorting Salim towards the Heart Kingdom. Salim, Yuno's opponent during the Magic Knight's exam, inquires to his beginnings, and Yuno speaks of his hometown of Hage. Suddenly, a black cloud covers the sky, and when Yuno goes closer to investigate it, he is attacked by magic bandits. Although caught off guard, Yuno eventually defeats the band, but Klaus is skeptical as the bandits somehow targeted only Yuno and not Salim. Salim, intrigued by Hage, elects to visit the village despite Klaus' protests. When they arrive, Sister Lily, Father Orsim, and the rest of the orphans happily go out and greet Yuno as well as their esteemed guests. They invite them to stay the night, and although Klaus objects, Salim insists on staying. Klaus is annoyed that he, a noble, must be subjected to being in such a run-down village. They enter the church as Lily prepares a potato-themed dinner. As everyone dines on Hage's best potato dishes, Yuno learns from Lily that both he and Asta have been sending back money. To his annoyance, Asta has been sending back more than him, so he promises Lily to send his entire paycheck next month. When Salim asks for more water, Lily goes out to fetch some from a nearby well. Before she leaves, Salim drapes her in his cloak, saying that it is chilly outside. However, Yuno hears a struggle and races outside and finds that Lily has been taken away, presumably by the bandits. Klaus orders him and Mimosa to leave with him and Salim at once. Despite Klaus' orders, Yuno goes by himself to look for Lily, defeating the bandits one by one until he finds her underneath the skull of the giant demon. The bandit leader orders Yuno to surrender his grimoire, threatening to burn off Lily's face if he refuses. Yuno feigns a retreat, only for Klaus to reveal himself, attacking the bandit squarely in the head with a magic spear. Klaus explains that using Mimosa's magic, Truth Flower, they were able to ascertain Salim's true intentions. He specifically asked for Yuno to escort him, so that he could lure him and have his revenge. Klaus says he will overlook Yuno's insolence for now, since Salim was the one responsible for the incident. Although he praises him, he says he has yet to acknowledge him. Mimosa laughs, knowing that Klaus simply isn't being honest with himself. They elect to release Salem and his men, but when Salem attempts another attack on Yuno, Lily uses her water magic to wash him away, leading Klaus to remark he'd like to recruit Lily into the Magic Knights as well. Meanwhile, the last missing bandit was taken care of by Julius, who had followed Yuno all the way there. He is finally found by his advisor Marx, who demands that he return to do his work immediately. When Yuno, Mimosa, and Klaus return to the Golden Dawn base, they learn they have also received a star from the Emperor. When they question how such a simple mission would have warranted a star, William explains that when Salem was captured, he ended up confessing to several corruption charges against his father. When Julius learns of the appearance of a dungeon, he decides to leave its exploration to certain individuals. Meanwhile, at the Black Bull's base, the group tries to decide on a name for the anti-bird that constantly follows Asta around, and they settle on Luck's suggestion, Nero. Yami arrives and informs them that the Wizard King himself has asked for Asta to explore a nearby dungeon. Asta is elated that the Wizard King asked for him personally, and he is pumped up to explore the dungeon. Yami has Noel accompany Asta and Luck to serve as their squad leader. They travel via Finral's portal, and they make a short trip towards the dungeon. After exploring for a while, Luck senses a powerful enemy using his magic sense, and he casts his magic, Thunder Boots, to travel towards it, leaving Asta and Noel to fend for themselves, much to their dismay. Noel is self-conscious that she is alone with Asta, and hurriedly makes her way throughout the room, but she is caught unaware by a man-eating plant. Asta frees her momentarily, but he, too, is soon caught in its vines, and they are brought to the monster's gaping maw to be eaten. Suddenly, magical needles strike out at the monster, releasing them both. Noel comments on the extraordinary control of magic, and they turn to see Yuno alongside Mimosa and Klaus of the Golden Dawn. Yuno smiles, remarking to Asta that he has finally repaid his debt. Meanwhile, King Julius is informed that the investigation of the dungeon is progressing smoothly, but is warned that the aggressive Diamond Kingdom has sent a battle mage, who goes by Lotus of the Abyss, to investigate the dungeon as well. However, his court is concerned. Julius is confident that he can be handled. Luck has defeated the entire Diamond Kingdom regiment, but now he eagerly faces Lotus. Lotus initially tries to escape, but Luck quickly catches up to him, realizing that he commands the power of smoke. Luck appears to be overwhelming Lotus, but his knees suddenly buckle. Lotus then explains that the entire time he was casting a weakening smoke on him, an attack that is invisible to the naked eye. Meanwhile, the Golden Dawn is the first to arrive at the treasure door, and Mimosa wonders where the Black Bulls are. She is suddenly struck by shards of crystals, gravely injuring her. Klaus and Yuno look at their attacker, a mysterious white-haired man from the Diamond Kingdom who demands that they move. Shaking off the effects of the magic, Luck begins feeling the thrill of battle even more. He begins fighting seriously, having electrified his arms. Lotus observes at his revitalized opponent and remarks that he'd rather not pluck a bud that is still young. In his youth as a commoner, Luck was scorned by his mother for his twisted personality. After he defeats a noble with his magic, his mother suddenly embraces him and convinces him he must keep on winning. Back in the present, Luck unleashes a vicious rush, but Lotus restrains him with solidified smoke at the cost of a significant bit of his magic. However, the payoff is well worth it as Luck's power continues to slip away from him. Meanwhile, Mimosa casts a Cradle of Healing on herself while Klaus and Yuno deal with their attacker. However, Klaus senses that their opponent has such immense magic even without a grimoire. Realizing that they are outmatched, he orders Yuno to head to the treasure room. Asta and Noel, led by Nero, stop when Noel senses denser mana in the air and identifies it as Luck's. Asta suggests that they help him out, but Noel reasons him to focus on the mission at hand, that the Diamond Kingdom may reach the treasure room first. Simultaneously, as Klaus is overwhelmed and as Lotus reaches out to Luck, Yuno and Asta arrive to the rescue of their respective teammates. Having remembered their conversation years ago, they both declare they have come to rescue their friends. Luck initially refuses to cooperate and goes after Lotus by himself, but Asta reminds him that he has come to have friends he can rely on. Lotus is forced to get serious and uses a deadly vortex of smoke, trapping the Black Bulls. Luck hypothesizes that Lotus can sense their magic through the fog, so he uses lightning bolts to herd him into an area where Asta is waiting. He slices him in the air, sending him crashing into a wall. Meanwhile, Yuno simultaneously summons wind blades and a wind eagle to fight their attacker, a feat which impresses Klaus. But to his horror, Yuno is easily beaten regardless, and the gap in their abilities is as clear as day. Lotus's injuries forces him to retreat in a smoke car. The Black Bulls give chase, but they end up losing him. Luck suggests they get a move onto the treasure room, irritating Noel as that was supposed to be their aim from the beginning. However, Luck's sensory magic acts up and informs them that someone far stronger is here. While Lotus regretfully retreats, he leaves the mission to Mars, the Diamond Kingdom's secret weapon. Klaus is horrified at the difference in levels between them and Mars and recognizes him as a specially designed battle mage. Yuno continues to fight on in vain as his wind-based attacks appear to have no effect on the mineralized Mars. Mars tells him to give up, but Yuno, knowing that Asta would never do such a thing, is galvanized and continues his assault. Mars drops a giant sword on him, but he is saved by Asta, who slices it clean in half. After Asta exchanges banter with Yuno, he turns his attention to Mars, who he quickly puts on the ropes. Klaus is astounded that a peasant with no magic could put up a fight when the Golden Dawn struggled so much. Soon, Luck and Noel arrive to support them against Mars' diamond clones. Asta relentlessly attacks Mars, smashing apart every attack that is thrown at him. Klaus is in disbelief, and Noel explains that Asta's power is magic negation. Klaus thinks that Asta was just lucky to be blessed with such a power, but Noel tells him to just sit back and watch. When Asta is crushed by Mars' diamond giant, Klaus is shocked to see Asta's muscular body, making him wonder just what kind of training he put himself through. Mars calls Asta an insignificant pebble, and Asta retorts that he is a pebble that shatters diamonds, leaping and destroying Mars' giant in the process. With this victory, Asta raises his sword in triumph. Klaus restrains the fainted Mars with his steel magic and confiscates his grimoire. Asta wonders if it is enough, and he reassures him that it is. After a brief yelling argument between Asta and Klaus, Asta cuts through the door leading into the treasure room. They find themselves among massive piles of gold, treasures, and magical oddities. Yuno is drawn to a certain scroll, and after he opens it, a strange light engulfs him. The words on the scroll disappear soon after, and Klaus tells him to put it back. Asta is then led by Nero to a strange button, but just as he is about to press it, Luck's sensory magic activates and he warns the others to get down. The grimoire flies out of Klaus's hands as it returns to its rightful owner, Mars, who has returned with a vengeance. He summons a wave of diamonds restraining Klaus, Luck, and Yuno. Klaus is shocked at how easily Mars broke free from his anti-magic restraints. He is further shocked when he notices Mars using fire recovery magic, a trait he knows is impossible as mages can only use magic from under their main element, be it fire, water, wind, or earth. Mars begins his assault, mortally wounding Noel in the process, and Asta screams in horror. While Mimosa tends to Noel's wounds, Asta rushes to fight Mars. But now he is aware of Asta's powers. He instead overwhelms him with speed, sending him crashing through a wall. Mimosa then begins using the strongest magic she possibly can, acknowledging Noel's efforts and hard work all these years. When Asta comes to, Nero flies towards a smaller, more nimble sword which Asta picks up. He uses it to attack Mars, and to great effect as it also has anti-magic properties, but it is light enough that he can use successive strikes. Noel reawakens and gives Asta words of encouragement, saying, "You are the first peasant I have ever acknowledged." Asta's new sword glows blue, which allows him to unleash a water slash on Mars, negating his fire recovery and knocking him unconscious. However, Asta is gravely injured in the process and he collapses. Mimosa rushes to tend to Asta, but she is worried that her magic may not be enough. An unconscious Mars recalls his time in the Diamond Kingdom's experimental labs, where he was forced to kill his only friend called Fauna. As the sole survivor of their forced battle royale, the scientists decide to implant him with magic stones and Fauna's fire magic. Meanwhile, Mars regains consciousness, and in a fit of rage against Asta, he prepares to deliver a fatal blow. Yuno finally breaks free using his magic, but his four-leaf clover grimoire suddenly activates on its own, freezing time for this around him. However, a small fairy appears which unleashes magic that instantly defeats Mars, and time begins to flow normally. Unaware of what just happened, Yuno notices that the words from the scroll have appeared on his grimoire, and likewise the grimoire of Asta absorbs the sword he had picked up into its pages. Klaus is confident that Mars is defeated for good, but the dungeon begins to fall apart around them. Yuno uses his wind magic to carry them out, but Asta pleads to rescue Mars, reasoning they came to conquer the dungeon but not to kill. However, they are unable to do so as the destruction of the dungeon makes it far too dangerous. Using Luck's sensory powers, he safely guides them out of the dungeon, while the rest of the mages use their magic to defend themselves and Asta against falling debris. They make it out of the dungeon alive. Meanwhile, Lotus, who was trailing them the entire time, manages to save Mars alongside heaps of treasure. Finally, remembering that Fauna told him to go out and see the world, Mars shows gratitude to Lotus for saving his life. Asta finally awakens and Klaus embraces both him and Yuno, apologizing for his behavior towards them so far, acknowledging them as wonderful magic knights of the kingdom. Asta wakes up after sleeping for an entire week, and the other Black Bulls tease Noel for checking up on him so often. After eating his fill, Asta and Noel are instructed by Yami to visit the Magic Knight headquarters as they were requesting a report. Along the way, they bump into Yuno, Mimosa, and Klaus, who are also on their way to give a report. Klaus has become more friendly towards Asta, while Mimosa is visibly flustered at the sight of him, having developed a crush since their dungeon operation. When Noel sees her acting bashful, she wonders if she herself has feelings for him too, but quickly convinces herself that there's no way. They arrive at the headquarters where the Wizard King Julius has come out to greet them. This is Asta and Yuno's first personal encounter with the man they admire. He is intrigued by Yuno's newfound magic, which he identifies as Sylph, one of the 4 great spirits. He is equally fascinated by Asta's new anti-magic sword, internally remarking that absorbs a great deal of magic. Asta and Yuno ask him how to become the Wizard King, and he replies that it is through merit. Accumulate enough merit, and you will have the respect of the people. He then invites them to an awarding and promotion ceremony of magic knights for those who have accrued a significant amount of stars. In attendance are several notable mages, including the Silva siblings, Nozel, Solid, and Nebra. Also attending are the magic knights Leopold, Electora Sandler, as well as several captains. After the ceremony, Julian excuses himself but invites them to enjoy a simple reception, which Asta, Yuno, Noel, Klaus, and Mimosa also attend. However, once there, the nobles in attendance scorn their very presence, especially Asta's, due rough behavior. However, when the Silva siblings begin bullying Noel, calling her a failure, an angry Asta criticizes them, who once thought so highly of great magic knights, causing Electora to envelop him in his sand magic to silence him. Asta cuts out of the prison with ease, declaring that he will one day be Wizard King and silence all those who doubt him. The nobles are in shock at such an outrageous claim. The nobles are shocked at his insolence, and the Silvas unleash a barrage of magic against Asta, but he cuts them down one by one. Recognizing his sword can erase magic, Electora restrains him using a sand soldier. Solid fires off a water snake attack, but Asta summons his great sword, deflecting it back to him. Suddenly, Nozel releases an immense amount of magic pressure which sends a cold shiver down everyone's spines. He tells Solid to cease at once, lest he embarrass the Silva family name. Afterwards, Leopold, who is a cousin of Mimosa, happily greets Asta, who is impressed by his boldness. He declares him to be his rival and challenges him to an arm wrestling match. Nozel turns to Fugolian, who finds it absurd that a noble would declare a peasant to be a rival. They both unleash their magical pressure, but a guard bursts into the room, with news that the capital is under attack led by a crazed white-haired man. Swarms of undead attack the city, with the crazed man calling out the magic knights to come and stop him. Electora creates a stone model of the city, far more advanced than Mimosa's flower model creation. He identifies key areas, but before he can give them their orders, Asta runs out of the room, saying he'll go where it's the noisiest. Finding this interesting, Leopold follows him soon after. An exasperated Electora splits the group into several teams and assigns them an area to respond to, despite the reluctance of some nobles to take orders. They split up and Electora grabs Noel so they can catch up to Asta and Leopold. The Silva siblings respond to the Central District. Saul, the Blue Rose captain, and Charlotte respond to the East District. Yuno, Electora, and Mimosa respond to the Northwest District. Hammond, Siren, and Klaus of the Golden Dawn respond to the West District, while Electora and Noel make it to the North District in search of Asta and Leopold. A girl is surrounded by the crazed man and hordes of undead. The man desires the complete destruction of the Clover Kingdom, and as he moves to kill the girl, Asta makes a hero's entrance. The crazed man summons a wave of zombies against Asta, who mows them down one by one. Meanwhile, the other magic knights that responded to the other areas realize that the zombies keep coming. All at once, they simply decide to just crush them with all their might. In all districts, the responding magic knights unleash an overwhelming display of power against the mindless hordes, killing huge swaths of them and earning the knights the renewed admiration of the people. Meanwhile, the crazed man finds Asta's anti-magic abilities to be troublesome, as his zombies are controlled by his magic. A simple slash undoes the entire spell. When Asta asks him why he is hurting innocent people, he merely laughs, calling everyone who doesn't understand his magic a sinner. He summons a giant zombie nicknamed Jimmy, which appears far more dangerous than the others. It fires off deadly bolts of curse magic, causing even the slight scratch to become a mortal wound. The crazed man begins targeting the little girl instead, and Asta desperately tries to defend her, but he is soon bogged down by an onslaught of magic bolts. Noel arrives, but her self-confidence is shattered when she remembers the harsh words of her siblings. Fugolian appears, smacks her on the head, and imparts on her wise words that being weak is nothing to be ashamed of, but staying weak is. With a newfound resolve, Noel defends the little girl with her magic just in time. Leopold appears too, burning a wave of zombies to a crisp. He tells Asta to go for it, and Asta begins spinning with his two blades, eviscerating Jimmy. Now driven to a corner, the crazed man summons another zombie called Alfred, which fires off a lightning bolt on Asta. The King of Clover, the self-centered Augustus Kira Clover 13, wonders why Julius is not here to defend him. Meanwhile, Charmy wanders into the castle kitchen and finds that a chef is preparing a magnificent dish. She asks if she could possibly taste his cooking, and after sensing she is no ordinary person, he agrees. Asta is unable to keep up with Alfred's speed and the crazed man mocks him for it. Fugolian assists Asta by burning Alfred to a crisp and apologizes to Asta for interrupting his fight. He remarks to Asta that if he wishes to be the Wizard King, then that makes them rivals. Asta tries to fight again, and although Fugolian admires his spirit, he tells him to stand down. Fugolian asks the man for his name and motive, and he finally reveals to be Raids. He explains he was once a top pick during the Magic Knight exams, and after joining the Purple Orcas he was soon expelled due to the nature of his corpse magic. He wishes to take revenge on the Clover Kingdom using his magic, a motive that Fugolian calls petty and childish. An infuriated Raid summons his strongest zombie called Carl, a supreme defensive and offensive weapon. Although it looks like Fugolian is on the ropes, he calmly picks apart a weak point in Carl's defense, killing instantly with a concentrated burst of fire, Sol Linea. He galvanizes Asta, Leopold, and Noel, lecturing them that every magic has a weak spot. With raids weakened, the various zombies and corpses around the city begin to fall one by one, as the Magic Knights wonder what the purpose of the attack was, while Yuno resolves to become stronger. A witch looks on at the recovering city, who remarks that it is too early for them to be celebrating. Raids is further driven into a corner after his last zombie is defeated by Noel and Leopold. Fugolian restrains Raids with fire claws and confiscates his grimoire despite his protests. When he opens it, he is surprised to see that it only has one spell, raising a corpse. Asta admonishes Raids for going down this path even when his magic was so powerful he was able to become a high-ranking Magic Knight. A voice receiver in Raid's ear tells him that he was too weak to fight a captain, and tells him to follow the plan. Suddenly, across the city, the various captains fall into a black hole and are sent several kilometers away from the city. Catherine the Witch then begins sucking out the life force of the citizens to retain her youthful appearance. However, she is surprised to see Yuno, who managed to avoid being sucked into the black hole. Yuno engages her in battle and asks what their goal is. She obliges and says that they are after a certain someone. Likewise, Fugolian interrogates Raids for the target of their attack, and he reveals that their target is none other than the captain of the Crimson Lions, him. Fugolian is surrounded by spatial magic transporting him to a strange place. Meanwhile, Yuno gradually succumbs to Catherine's curse bolts, and he gradually loses his 5 senses. He laments that his power is not enough and that even Sylph's magic does not come out willingly. However, he suddenly gains a sharp mana-sensory ability, and remembering that Asta never gives up, neither does he. He is finally able to summon Sylph willingly and blows away Catherine with a mighty hurricane. A bewildered Fugolian explores the strange, white room he has been teleported into, where he is surprised to see a familiar face. Catherine is sent blasting into the castle, where she ends up in the same kitchen as Charmy. Now old and withered, she attempts to absorb Charmy's magic, but the latter thinks that she is after her food. She angrily summons a giant sheep, which sucks up Catherine's magic and beats the daylights out of her. Now defeated, the aged citizens turn back to normal. Charmy scrambles to catch her plate of food, but it is saved by Yuno, whom Charmy is infatuated with, naming him as her food prince. As they interrogate Raids where Fugolian has been taken, Noel infers that the spatial magic caster must be nearby. Asta instinctively attacks a pile of corpses, where a magician named Vados is hiding, who commends him for finding him. Regardless, their mission is complete as he summons a portal where the body of Fugolian falls through, bleeding profusely and missing an arm. This brings shocks Noel and Asta, while Leopold is frozen in grief, unable to act. Noel rushes to stop Fugolian's bleeding. His grimoire is still intact, which means that he is still alive. She screams at Leopold to help her, but he remains catatonic. With their mission complete, Raids begins to escape through Vat's portal, but Asta throws his sword, canceling it. He proceeds to lay a beatdown on Raids, returning to him tenfold the pain he inflicted on the city. Vats finds Asta's anti-magic blades troublesome and admits that they might be in trouble. Vats' attack on Asta is cancelled by a now revitalized Leopold, who has snapped out of his state of grief. The cornered Vats and Raids are saved by the arrival of their 5 allies, who surround the exhausted and injured Asta, Noel, and Leopold. Asta grits his teeth and slices his own wounds to cancel out the effects of the curses, allowing him to recover somewhat. This astonishes Raids, who cannot believe someone can be so reckless. Asta stares down his adversaries and readies his blades, declaring that his whole life he has known nothing but adversity and difficulty, and no matter what comes his way he will overcome it. He howls at his enemies, and in a badass manner tells them to come and get some, while Noel summons a water wall to defend themselves and the dying Fugolian. However, the shield is absorbed by tree magic, while Asta and Leon are impaled by wind needles. Before they can do any further damage, the magic knights return after they reluctantly pooled their magic together. Mimosa immediately works to heal Fugolian while Nozel unleashes a barrage of mercury, but it is absorbed by specially enhanced salamander magic. The magicians manage to kidnap Asta, and before they escape through one of Volto's portals, they introduce themselves as the Eye of the Midnight Sun and declare that one day they will destroy the Clover Kingdom. Unable to spare resources to find Asta, they leave them to his fate. Voltos is scolded by his allies for his recklessness, while Sally, the magician who kidnapped Asta, is told that they must kill him despite her desire to dissect him. When they descend into a tunnel, they find the wizard King Julius waiting for them. He instantly kills 2 of the magicians while effortlessly avoiding the attacks of the remaining 5. He traps them in time stasis magic while a bewildered Asta looks on in awe at his sheer power. Julius turns to him and says that if he wants to be the Wizard King, this level of magic is something he will have to surpass. Julius then walks over to a slab of stone with strange symbols he had never seen before, and intends to interrogate the magicians once they return to Clover Kingdom. Suddenly, a bright flash of light swallows them all and a braided member of the Eye of the Midnight Sun appears. The braided man is able to escape with several of the Midnight Sun members, but Julius was able to retain one. He suspects that the man was their leader based on how powerful his magic was. He is called back to the capital by Marx, where he learns that Fugolian is in a precarious state. After the Magic Knights perform a full sweep around the city, he orders the strengthening of the defenses of the Clover Kingdom. Nozel excuses himself, swearing revenge upon those who hurt Fugolian. Leopold reawakens and declares that he will one day surpass his brother, burning a mark onto his forehead to remind him of this oath. The reconstruction of the city proceeds smoothly, but Julius suspects a traitor among the Magic Knights' ranks. Meanwhile, in the Midnight Sun's base, Raid swears to exact revenge on Asta, while Sally, curious about his anti-magic properties, says that she should be allowed to experiment on him alive. The leader of the Midnight Sun was struck by a smidgen of Julius's power, shriveling one of his arms, and while acknowledging Julius's phenomenal magic. Back in the kingdom, Asta and Noel receive muffins from the girl they had saved, which are immediately swiped away. Charmy. She is in a good mood due to seeing Yuno, whom she calls her food prince. Mimosa, Klaus, and Yuno pass by, and to her surprise Asta and Yuno are acquainted. Yuno suddenly unleashes wind magic on Asta, who cuts it down in the nick of time. He then sees letters written by the magic which says "See you later, Shrimpsta," basically meaning Shrimp Asta, which absolutely infuriates him. The two go their separate ways, both eager to become stronger than the other. Asta and Noel return to the Black Bull's base, where Magna and Luck have returned from their mission, earning a star for their efforts. To their surprise, Asta was made a third-class junior magic knight for his efforts, while Charmy was made a first class for her capture of Catherine, who immediately brags to the others. Magna and Luck are despondent as they are still 5th class. However, Asta worries about the state of Fugolian, but Yami reassures him, saying that it would take more than that to kill him. As Asta is put on a rest break, Finral invites him to a mixer. Finral has trouble deciding on who else to take with him to a mixer, crossing out the Black Bull's members one by one until he decides to take Luck. They leave behind Gordon, who wanted to go the whole time. The three are transported to the city of Need, where Noel has sneakily followed them, worried and flustered that Asta is going to a mixer. They arrive at the DV Rinker, a bar where they meet and introduce themselves to the girls. While Finral and Luck show off their magic abilities, while Asta proudly proclaims he will be the Wizard King. The girls internally monologue that they find them troublesome, especially since they are Black Bulls. They then introduce themselves as Rebecca, Helene, and Erica. Finral tries to get a conversation going, but Luck and Asta are hopelessly useless, and he begins to despair at his failure of a mixer. Disguised as a barmaid, Noel is glad it isn't going well. Sek also happens to be at a nearby mixer, but the girls are also put off by his eccentric behavior. When he yells at Noel to get him another drink, she fires a water bolt at him, earning her the respect of the girls, who give an enthusiastic thumbs up. By some miracle, the Black Bull's mixer begins to go well. Helene becomes enamored with Luck, and the two go outside to showcase their magic to each other, while Erica decides to go along with Finral despite his gaudiness. Asta is left alone with Rebecca, who appears to want nothing to do with him. However, the two soon bond over their mutual love of their siblings, and they start to get along. A drunken man begins to bother and insult Rebecca, but Asta flings him across the room into Sek's mixer, causing the girls to leave. Rebecca grabs Asta and they run into an alleyway while Noel follows them closely. Rebecca becomes somewhat infatuated with Asta and asks him if there's a girl he likes, to which Asta replies he does. Although disappointed, she does not plan to give up, while Noel assumes that the girl Asta likes is her. Meanwhile, Finral and Luck are both rejected by the girls and they sadly go home. Asta continues to train hard to be the Wizard King while various characters recall their memories of him climbing the ranks. In Hage, Sister Lily and Father Orsi are proud of Asta after hearing of his exploits at the capital. With the funds he and Yuno send back, they now live quite comfortably. Alongside the Master of the Grimoire Tower, they recall Asta's struggle and pain at not receiving a grimoire during the initiation ceremony, but they are relieved that everything has turned out well for the boy without magic. In the Black Bull's base, Gordon keeps a diary recording the adventures of his best friend Asta. He recalls Asta's impressive display during the Magic Night ceremony and his first few days of doing chores at the Black Bull's base. Still flustered at the misunderstanding the Asta likes her, Noel cannot accept that she could have feelings for a commoner but concedes that on certain occasions he has acted quite cool, including the battles of Saucy Village and Mars. Asta returns to the base where an embarrassed Noel sends him flying with a burst of water. Meanwhile, Yuno, Mimosa, and Klaus prepare to leave on a mission, but the former are embarrassed at the chariot Klaus has prepared for them. As they leave separately on their brooms, Yuno remembers his promise with Asta. From a young age, the two were already sworn rivals to become the Wizard King. He admires him as the one who gave him hope. In Hage, Sister Lily and Father Orsi are delighted to hear that Yuno has been made a first-class junior magic knight, but are surprised to also learn that Asta has been made a third class. With Yami giving the Black Bulls a day off, Gauche visits his sister Marie at Nîmes to celebrate her birthday. Likewise, Asta asks Magna to take him to Nîmes, having promised to play with Rebecca's siblings. Curious about how it will go, Noel secretly follows him. Gauche buys out the entire gift shop for Marie, where he recalls as a former convict. She is his only joy and reason for living. When he arrives near the church, he is horrified to see Marie playing with Asta. He angrily starts kicking him, but when Marie says that she will marry Asta one day, he starts firing mirror bolts at him. Gauche is stopped by Sister Teresa in charge of the local orphanage and takes Marie away with her. Distraught that Marie is taken away from him, he once again turns to stone. Rebecca invites them to her restaurant and to stay the night, where she prepares a feast for Asta. He praises her cooking skills, saying she would make a good wife someday. Rebecca's siblings, who have taken a liking to Asta, encourage her to jump him tonight, causing her to be flustered. Overhearing everything, Noel becomes greatly annoyed. That night, Rebecca is conscious of her siblings' suggestion to jump Asta in his sleep, and she gets up to check on her siblings. At the same time, Ghost jumps Asta in his sleep, attacking him and launching him out into the street where it is strangely snowing. Rebecca rushes out of the house and tells Asta that her siblings are missing. Across the city, distressed parents exit their homes, calling out to their missing children. Meanwhile, a white-haired magician leads flocks of children away, calling them his new best friends. Sister Teresa informs Ghost that even Marie has been taken away, and they immediately leave to find her using one of Ghosh's mirrors that Marie always has on her. Noel is told to stay behind to defend the city and contact Magic Knight headquarters to inform them of what is happening. When she does, she finds that Sek has been assigned to help out, much to her dismay. Marie awakens, having snapped out of the hypnosis due to the mirror. She finds two men, Nij, who uses snow magic, and Barrow, a large burly man. The pair work to kidnap children and drain them of their magic. Barrow uses his special glasses and sees that Marie has a wealth of magic inside her. He throws one of Rebecca's siblings, called Marco, into the snow after detecting him with little magic. When Asta, Teresa, and Ghosh see Marco out in the snow, Asta and Teresa drop down to tend to him while Ghosh goes on ahead. Asta taps Marco with his sword, cancelling out the hypnosis, and Teresa casts soothing fire magic to heal his wounds. Meanwhile, Ghosh enters the cave just in time to see Marie being dragged to have her magic power sucked out of her. To his horror, he sees scratches on Marie and he flies into a rage. Nij and Barrow are unnerved at having to fight a magic knight, and when Nij is unable to keep him at bay for long, Barrow takes Marie hostage, forcing Ghosh to stop. However, Marie is saved by the arrival of Asta and Teresa. Marie runs and hugs Asta instead of Ghosh, and the latter is crestfallen. Teresa begins inspecting the children and finds that many of them have had their magic sucked out and are unlikely to ever use magic again in the future. Nij and Barrow are cornered, but using his special glasses, Barrow identifies that Asta has no magical power whatsoever and volunteers to fight him himself, but to his shock he is blasted away. Asta says he will never forgive them for hurting the children. Sek arrives at the Black Bull's base to find reinforcements for Neen, but finds the place trashed. He is frightened by Gordon and Gray. An irate Yami, thinking Sek is a debt collector, grabs him by the head. Meanwhile, Nij is defeated by Ghosh while Teresa restrains Barrow. Asta becomes enraged by Barrow, who shows no remorse for his actions. While Teresa begins healing the other children, Barrow secretly sends out a mud minion to call for help. Teresa calls out to Asta and tells him that Sister Lily once trained at their church in Nîmes. He excitedly asks her what Lily says about him, and she replies that she knows him to be short and noisy, but has an indomitable spirit that never gives up, a trait which Sister Lily tries to emulate. Suddenly, Sally appears, responding to Barrow's distress signal. Ghosh fires off a volley of beams in a frenzy, but they are all repelled by her salamander. Asta attempts to cut her, but she easily avoids his strikes and captures him. Before she can do any more damage, Teresa frees him using fire magic, revealing that she was once a magic knight of the Crimson Lions, carrying the epithet of the She-Leopard and a mentor to Fugolian. Sally contemplates that a 3-on-1 fight may be disadvantageous to her, however Barrow asks her to heal him so he can help, but he secretly plots to escape at a moment's notice. She then injects him with a dangerous drug, radically transforming him into a giant mud abomination. To their shock, Ghosh, not wanting to expose Marie to even more danger, grabs her and makes a run for it, leaving Asta, Teresa, and the other children to fend for themselves despite Marie's protests. Now the mud monster, Barrow, begins to go on a rampage, and Teresa summons a flame cheetah to get the children to safety, but it will take time for all of them to get out. Barrow tries to crush Nij, but Asta deflects the blow, telling Nij that he has yet to pay for his crimes. Meanwhile, Ghosh continues to escape as he doesn't care what happens to others as long as Marie is safe. In a flashback, it is revealed that they were once part of the wealthy Adlai family, but when their parents were killed, their fortune was swindled away by their rivals. Now left to fend for themselves, Ghosh stole and robbed from others until he was finally arrested and sent to prison, while Marie was sent to an orphanage with Teresa. Back in the present, he snaps out of it when Marie tells him that he hates him for being so pathetic. Ghosh drops her off with the others and, desiring to have his sister be proud of him, returns to Asta and Teresa, but expects them to have run away as he feels that in the end people only care about themselves. To his surprise, Asta and Teresa are still there, valiantly defending the children as they escape. He arrives in time to Asta's aid, but his mirror magic has little effect on Barrow. He is struck from out of the sky by Barrow and Asta defends him again. Deciding for the first time to work with someone else, Ghosh creates a new spell in his grimoire and tells Asta to look into his eye. He summons a whole brigade of Astas with swords empowered by Ghosh's mirror magic, and they successfully kill Barrow while incapacitating Sally. While Nij accepts responsibility for his and his brother's actions, a bright light suddenly envelops the cave, but Nij and Ghosh are suddenly attacked by light spears, while Teresa is mortally injured while defending Asta. They look on in horror as the leader of the Eye of the Midnight Sun appears, introducing himself as Licht. Asta is shocked to see that Licht also has a 4-leaf clover grimoire like Yuno. As Teresa begins to bleed out, Asta considers a suicide charge against Licht. Angered that Asta has the 5-leaf clover grimoire, Licht attempts to take it from him. Using Finral's magic, Yami appears just in time to save Asta. He instructs Finral to take home the injured, but expects him to return, which scares Finral as he had planned to just stay out harm's way. Eager to see his captain in action, Asta elects to stay behind while Licht is curious to fight Yami's dark magic. During their duel, Licht tells Yami of his story. He once hailed from a village filled with talented magicians, but they were slaughtered and their magic was stolen from them. Yami, who says his story sucks, tells his own. He was a fisherman from a land of the sun where he washed ashore in the Clover Kingdom, and after beating up a bunch of guys he was made captain. When Yami learns Licht was the one responsible for injuring Fugolian, he explodes into a flurry and manages to injure Licht with a dark magic slash, greatly impressing Asta. Yami says that there's no way Licht could have beaten Fugolian without doing anything underhanded, and invites him to face the true power of a magic knight captain. Yami tells Asta to help him and teaches him about the power of Kai, a kind of sixth sense which allows him to predict and counter Licht's attacks. Asta says it is impossible for him to do it so suddenly, and Yami replies that if he plans to be the Wizard King then he must surpass his limits right here, right now. He tells him to practice it on Voltos, not just by relying on his ears, but by honing all 5 senses to act as one. Asta concentrates deeply and manages to deflect one of Volto's curse bolts back at him, which enraged Licht, who uses impossible to predict light whips to counter their use of Kai. The onslaught causes the cave to collapse in on them. He thinks he is victorious, but to his surprise Yami and Asta burst out from under the rubble. Yami and Licht continue their duel, with his black magic being a natural enemy to his enemy's light magic. Licht grows to respect Yami's ability, recognizing him as a worthy foe. Yami asks him for his intentions in the Clover Kingdom, and he replies that he wishes to establish a new kingdom, one free of the corruption and discrimination that commoners and non-magic people face. Asta is astounded at his captain's power, and Yami instructs him to deal with Voltos in his own way. Asta charges but is held back by a barrage of curse bolts that come from strange angles. He decides to discard his weapon and instead go through a portal that Voltos made, punching him in the face, amusing Yami, who finds the fact that he just punched a guy hilarious. Licht tries to sneak up on Yami, but his sword absorbs his magic and he finds himself unable to move. Yami slashes him with black magic, seriously injuring Licht. Badly wounded, Licht acknowledges Yami as the second person to ever fight him as an equal. He begins preparing a massive spell with a range so large and power so devastating that it would be impossible to defend against. Meanwhile, Ghosh looks over at a dying Teresa, who gifts him with what little magic she has left and tells him to go and save Asta. Fearing she has died, he is relieved when she was just pretending to die. He asks Finral for his assistance in returning to the cave. Yami prepares a defensive measure but remarks that they will likely die. Even Asta would die before he can try to slash the beam. Finral and Ghosh arrive just in time for Licht to fire his magic, the Holy Ray of Light. Ghosh has Finral swap him with Asta and Yami. Using his magic, he reflects the beam right back at him, remarking that mirrors always reflect light. Meanwhile, several members of the Midnight Sun look on at Sally's injured body and decide now is the time for them to come out. As the children start returning to Neen, Noel and Rebecca go out in search of Marco and the rest. They follow Nero back to the church where they find an injured Teresa. Noel learns that they are still in the cave, fighting. Yami and the others approach Licht, who regains consciousness long enough to recognize Ghosh as a friend from long ago, despite Ghosh himself having no recollection of who he is. Yami restrains both Licht and Voltos with a dark binding, while they wait for Finral's spatial magic to recover, much to his and Ghosh's annoyance. Suddenly, 3 members of the Midnight Sun emerge from a portal, one of whom, Raya, uses light magic to touch Yami's grimoire. Another, Fauna, begins to heal Licht with fire-based healing magic. Licht identifies as his strongest members, even stronger than he, the third eye. The 3 leap into battle and Yami is startled that Raya copied his dark magic, saying that he'll sue him for copyright infringement. The third member called Veto uses his monstrous beast magic to pressure Yami, even destroying his prized katana. Things look dire for the Black Bulls as both Finral and Ghosh are dangerously low on magic, while Asta and Yami have been pushed back. Things take a turn for the worse when Fauna, spiteful that they harmed Licht, wields one of the 4 great spirits, Salamander, in battle. Yami just barely defends himself against her fire blast and must now defend against the third eye's onslaught with a broken katana. Finral recognizes that Yami is outmatched, with Licht even claiming that each of the third eye is stronger than a magic squad captain. As the third eye prepare to finish off a defenseless Yami, a flash of light appears before him. As the dust settles, 3 magic knight captains emerge to his rescue: Nozel of the Silver Eagles, Charlotte of the Blue Roses, and Jack the Ripper of the Green Praying Mantises. Jack takes offense that the third eye claims to be stronger than a captain and wants to put that theory to the test. The 2 sides stare each other down at a cataclysmic battle. That's all for today. Thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this. Until next time.